Innocent or guilty? I say innocent. Dr. Mudd, a simple country doctor, convicted for participating in a hideous crime, was innocent. He was not part of a plot to assassinate President Lincoln. Dr. Mudd's innocence can be proven by three facts. First, he was a kind and gentle man, not capable of plotting to assassinate President Abraham Lincoln. Second, Dr. Mudd told the authorities of the two suspicious characters he housed. He didn't wait to be caught. He was a victim of circumstances. And third, he wasn't given the death sentence. He was later pardoned. A guilty man would have been judged harsher and would have never been pardoned. Dr. Mudd was considered a gentleman. He was not capable of participating in such an act. Dr. Mudd's daughter, Nettie, writes in her book, The Life of Dr. Samuel Mudd, even from his earliest years, he was always thoughtful of others, always distinguished for his gentleness and kindness. Dr. Mudd was a kind and gentle man, whose character and nature didn't allow for such a participation in such a hideous crime. Dr. Mudd's character was such that his companions from childhood remained friends for life. In the book, The Riddle of Dr. Mudd, Jeremiah Dyer states, I have known Dr. Mudd since he was a boy. I have never heard the slightest thing against him. He has always been regarded as a good citizen. He has a good reputation for peace, order, and good citizenship. Therefore, with Dyer's statement of good character for Dr. Mudd, it is impossible to believe that such a man is capable of this terrible act, or at least capable of destroying his own character. Furthermore, in The Riddle of Dr. Mudd, Carter writes that the only vices in Mudd's temperate and cautious nature were tobacco and cards. Moreover, Carter writes, John L. Turner and Joseph Waters, two neighbors with no reason to be biased, saw the doctor a good, peaceable, and quiet citizen, harboring no sympathy for the rebellion, loyal to the Union. Also in the book, The Union vs. Dr. Mudd, we read in defending Dr. Mudd, friends would point out that he had taken the oath of allegiance, had supported a Union candidate in the 1864 election. Dr. Mudd was a supporter of the Union now, and was supporting a Union candidate. Mudd had to know he was supporting President Abraham Lincoln. Therefore, it doesn't even make sense that he would plot to assassinate the very man who represented the Union he supported. Furthermore, Dr. Mudd was also supported by his workers, his former slaves. In Ben Pittman's book, The Assassination of President Lincoln, Mr. Stone, a servant of Mudd, is asked how Mudd treats his servants. Stone replies, he always treated his servants very well. He treated me very well. I was always very satisfied with the accommodations he gave me. So a man full of such greatness and kindness, respected by his peers and the people beneath him, could not possibly be a conspirator in such an assassination. He was innocent. Secondly, Dr. Mudd told the authorities of the two suspicious characters he didn't wait to be caught. He was a victim of circumstances. When Dr. Mudd realized how suspicious the two men he aided were, he didn't wait to be caught. He reported Booth and Harold to the authorities. On the night of the assassination, Dr. Mudd had not felt very well in the house that everybody was sleeping, including Dr. Mudd, and nobody was expecting visitors. In The Riddle of Dr. Mudd, Carter writes that Samuel Mudd climbed into bed beside his wife, complaining of sore muscles, weariness, and a debilitating headache. He had hoped for a night of undisturbed sleep. Dr. Mudd clearly was not expecting a knock on his door at 4 a.m., but a knock did come, and with this knock, Dr. Mudd asked his wife if she would see who was there, as he was not feeling well. Dr. Mudd would not have asked his beloved wife to answer the door if he had known it was an assassin on the other side. This further reaffirms that Dr. Mudd was not expecting Booth and therefore was not part of the plot. When Dr. Mudd did admit the two men into his home, he did not recognize them, for Booth had worn a false beard and had concealed his face. Furthermore, he was a renowned actor who could hide his true identity fairly easily. So according to the book, The Union vs. Dr. Mudd, Mudd probably first heard of the assassination during his visit to Bryantown, and when he learned Booth had disappeared and had worn a false beard, evidence further shows that the crippled man had shaved his mustache and wore a false beard, and this thoroughly aroused Mudd's suspicions. So Mudd decided he would tell the authorities of the two men. According to the riddle of Dr. Mudd, he told Francis he thought he should return to Bryantown at once and report the incident to Lieutenant Dana and his officers. So Dr. Mudd reported these men with the knowledge that it might implicate him in the conspiracy. He reported them and did not wait to be caught. Furthermore, according to Edward Steers Jr.'s The Escape and Capture of John Wilkes Booth, most historians have concluded that the role of Dr. Mudd was no more than that of an innocent physician who became a victim of circumstances at the hands of a vengeful government. Dr. Mudd wasn't given the death sentence and was later pardoned. A guilty man would have been judged harsher. Dr. Mudd was one of the 3 conspirators found guilty of conspiracy but not given a death sentence. A guilty man would have been sentenced to die along with Harold, Azarda, and Payne. Dr. Mudd's guilt was questionable, and according to the book, His Name Was Mudd, the president said Mudd was a mere creature of accident and ought not to have been put there. So President Johnson found Mudd innocent, but at present he didn't think it was wise to say so because of all the political excitement. But as time passed and Mudd's family pressed for his pardon, the president realized it was time to grant it. The president wrote Miss Mudd a letter in which he said he had drawn up Dr. Mudd's pardon and wished for her to come to his office so that she may see him sign it and give it to her personally. Miss Mudd found the time and came to the president's office where she received Dr. Mudd's formal pardon. Innocent, that's what Dr. Mudd really was. He had no character traits of a guilty man. He was kind and gentle. Furthermore, he had not waited to be caught and didn't realize he was treating an assassin. He was only doing his medical duty. Finally, he wasn't tried like the real guilty conspirators and was eventually pardoned. This simple country doctor was and always will be innocent.